Twitter is now officially owned by an African American, a good step for progress, a good step for diversity. But unfortunately, we are going to hear the song of their people.
Exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Yes, this is extremely dangerous to their democracy. People speaking with each other without a chaperone, without an adult in the room, allowing you to have words with another citizen is extremely dangerous to their democracy. As Elizabeth Warren says, this deal is dangerous for our democracy. Billionaires like Elon Musk play by a different set of rules than everyone else, accumulating power for their own gain. We need a wealth tax and strong rules to hold big tech accountable. I would like to remind you that Elon Musk just bought Twitter from Wall Street. He bought it from BlackRock. He bought it from the Vanguard Corporation. It didn't just exist there in the ether. It wasn't in the middle of the desert. It was owned by the billionaires, which Elizabeth Warren seems to like. And she doesn't like that one billionaire took Twitter from another billionaire. And this is extremely dangerous for her democracy. And I think the mainstream media, for a change, actually managed to explain this perfect.
You own all of Twitter or Facebook or what have you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't even have to be transparent. You could secretly ban one party's candidate or all of its candidates, all of its nominees, or you could just secretly turn down the reach of their stuff and turn up the reach of something else, and the rest of us might not even find out about it till after the election. Elon Musk says this is all to help people because he is just a free speech, philosophically clear, open-minded helper.
Do you guys think I should sue? Should I sue MSNBC because it used my arguments from my channel that I have been saying for years now? And all of a sudden, magically, a switch has flipped. And they're like, you know what? This guy, this Romanian, is absolutely right. Let's take all his arguments and put them on air because he is so smart. I thought it was like my private company can do whatever it wants. So I guess if the company is owned by Wall Street, by BlackRock, by the Vanguard Group, by Saudi Arabian princes, then it's fine. Okay, no concern for our democracy. The moment it's owned by Elon Musk, who says, let just people talk with each other. I don't give a shit. Oh my God, huge, huge concern. And I love the fact that they point out how you can just lower the reach of one political candidate and amplify the other. Kind of like banning one political candidate from the platform while suppressing any scandal that the other candidate might be involved in. I mean, I remember they even created terms of service to preemptively ban election scandals. For example, they made the terms of service which said that if you have knowledge involving one political candidate coming from hacked material, you weren't allowed to publish it because it would violate their terms of service. I mean, since when? Why does it matter if the information comes from being hacked or not? So you're telling me that if a journalist would trespass in order to get to the house of the Mafia Don, and over there he would get all the files incriminating the Mafia, he should not be morally allowed to bring those files forward because of the way they were gotten. I mean, most of the whistleblowing that happened throughout human history was gotten with someone doing something that they weren't supposed to. So notice how they came up. And this is, of course, because of the Hillary Clinton emails.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there and what it means. Joining us now, CN.
They realized that last election that was a problem. So now they changed the terms of service in order to protect their candidate. And I'm saying they because they are clearly political parties. It's like if up till now the media and the Democrats didn't say a single thing, and all of a sudden they're all concerned about our democracy, it goes to show who had more to gain and who had more to benefit. I mean, the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, it got banned from Twitter, but it got banned so hard like no other scandal before. Just so you can understand, usually when Twitter bans something, they just ban it from the public view. But if you were to DM the newspaper article, if you were to try to talk to someone on shortwave radio on Twitter, they would ban it in DMs. That's how freaked out they were about that scandal, which turns out to be true now. Like, even the New York Times admitted it. So that is how they defend our democracy, by making sure people don't talk, by deciding what some people get to say, by creating rules that they can enforce selectively, by, exactly as MSNPC said it, lowering the reach of some political candidates while maximizing the others. That is their democracy that they want to protect. And by the way, I just want to also point out, America wasn't built so that democracy can flourish. It was built so that liberty and freedom can flourish. Read what the founding fathers have said. In fact, they knew that democracy is problematic, which is why they had a constitutional republic. Why is that I, from Romania, know about these things? And of course, literally hours later, the spokesperson for the White House comes out with huge concern, hashtag concern, because people are now allowed to speak freely.
Surgeon General has said that misinformation about COVID amounts to a public health crisis.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, regardless of ownership, would the White House be interested in working with Twitter like it has in the past to continue to combat this kind of misinformation? Or are we in a different part of the pandemic where that kind of partnership is no longer necessary?
Well, I think we engage regularly with all social media platforms about steps that can be taken. That has continued, and I'm sure it will continue. But there are also reforms that we think Congress could take, and we would support taking, including reforming Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency, and the President is encouraged by the bipartisan support for or engagement in those efforts.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. The party which says that men cannot get pregnant, and they cannot even define what a woman is, wants to control the misinformation on the internet. So I want to ask you, do you think when you want to buy a house or when you want to buy a car, Jen Psaki is going to be there to make sure that the salesman isn't providing any sort of misinformation to you? When you're taking your car to a mechanic, Jen Psaki is going to be there to make sure that the mechanic isn't spreading some misinformation to charge you extra? Or is she only there when it benefits her political party? And when it's issues that her political party are pushing forward and you're not allowed to disagree with? I mean, the only thing left to protect our democracy even further would be for Jen Psaki to be in the voting booth next to me, because voting is hard and I might not put the stamp correctly. I might need her guidance in order to make sure that I don't vote incorrectly, improperly. And that would definitely protect our democracy, now wouldn't it? Now, I would like to point out that I've been vindicated, because in the past, I had various debates with people like Academic Agent and other more libertarian-oriented mindsets. And this was when the Republicans had power. And I said, social media needs to be regulated, because if it's not, then someone else will. And they were like, no, my private company, no, that's not okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I was right. Someone else will. So, of course, the Democrats are going to try their best in order to regulate it. They're probably going to say that in order to be Section 230 compliant, you need to censor hate speech or whatever other nonsense they're going to come up with, you know, various buzzwords. Maybe put a committee that's going to decide what is acceptable and what isn't, the same way that the European Union does it. So in the European Union for television, we have the Audiovisual Council, and they are hyper-political, and they decide how much airtime you should allow various political parties to have. It's kind of like that, and I think like they will have a similar system in the US if they get their way. If is the big question. I love how they say bipartisan. Usually bipartisan, it means all the Democrats and maybe one or two Republicans, and that's bipartisan. But, you know, I like that the mask is off. Everyone knew it, but there are also people who probably don't watch Twitter and don't follow the news, and they're a little bit taken aback because they have been drilled into their heads for years now. My private company can do whatever it wants. And all of a sudden, the moment my private company doesn't belong to Wall Street, but it belongs to another billionaire, oh, well, it shouldn't do anything it wants. It should do what the government wants. Okay. So, with that out of the way, what changes do I think will happen on Twitter? I honestly don't know. I don't think there are going to be big changes. There is a rumor saying that Elon Musk will require everyone to authenticate if they want to use Twitter. I don't know if that's going to be popular. I mean, many people would be unsubscribing if that's the case. But take into account that blue check marks already authenticate. So every single blue check mark has to show ID, has to show that they are who they are. So the blue check marks will probably stay if that happens. A lot of the users will probably leave. I think it would be an unpopular choice. We'll just wait to see. I would personally not like it. I would not support that choice. But with that out of the way, I think every single social media is going for that. So even Facebook is going for you to show ID for certain accounts. Like if you have a really big account, Facebook will say, okay, well, you need two-step authentication if you want to keep using the platform. At first it was voluntary, but now it seems to be mandatory. And at first it was for the big accounts, and I'm pretty sure in the future it will come for small accounts. So if all social media, like literally every single one is going to do this, like you need to show ID in order to use the internet, then probably Twitter will do it as well. Because they rely on the fact that people are addicted and the overwhelming amount of people aren't going to go anywhere. So that is one of the negative changes that I see coming. One of the more positive changes is like people might get their accounts back. I know Donald Trump isn't going to come back on Twitter, like he already said it. But there will be other interesting personalities, like for example, Alex Jones. It would be hilarious just to see the meltdown, because I don't really listen to Alex Jones, I don't follow him. But the meltdown from the blue checkmarks is going to be content given. I can milk a lot of lols from that. And I would enjoy making videos on that topic. And finally, the source code being made public and all of the information on Twitter server made public. I honestly think, and this is my prediction, that the Twitter employees are going to do their best in order to remove that information before Elon Musk manages to take control properly. And whether they will manage to do it or they will try and get caught, that would be a funny story in and of itself. I know like some people say, well, yeah, but like the data is saved in other places and it's very hard to do it. Look, just because that's the case doesn't mean that they're not absolutely stupid, that they might not try to do it and get caught, which would make for a very interesting story. The reason they might do this is because some of the data might actually be criminal. And I'm talking about the fact that they would violate certain laws. They might have gained information from users in a way that wasn't disclosed. They might have favored certain companies in exchange of others and violating antitrust laws. Like, there could be a lot of things that are happening there, which, even if not necessarily criminal, they would be highly, highly unethical and would raise a lot of concern for all the other social media companies. So I'm definitely 100% sure that they don't want that data to come out, which is why I think they might try to delete it, and whether they'll be successful or not is irrelevant. What I do think it's going to do is going to provide a lot of funny content for months to come, especially before the elections. So take into account that all of this is going to raise questions for other social media companies, right? Because up until now, if you criticize what Facebook is doing, it was, well, my private company can do whatever it wants. But now the Democrats are going with, no, we need to regulate. It's like, okay, well, then the right-wingers will want to regulate as well. It's just that they're not going to regulate the way the Democrats do. And chances are that next elections, the right-wingers are going to be in power. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Now, with that out of the way, I will show you a couple of reactions from the Twitter employees, but I'll hold that for This Week is Stupid. Remember when I stated that the guy who said, I worked at Twitter, but now that Elon Musk bought it, I don't know where to go? And people pointed out that it's a troll, that it's not true. And I said, look, it's a concept, it's an idea, all right? Like, that will happen. And now it's happening. I was right. Absolutely happening at a massive scale. So I'll see you guys in the comment section. Hopefully you can join my live stream tonight, and we can go through some of the reaction that some of the Twitter employees have and rate them from 1 to 10. You know, give a little top tier reaction. So I'll see you guys there. Take care.